Slowly set aside whatever is in your hands. Find the most comfortable position, relax your shoulders, relax your neck, close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and slowly breathe out. Tonight, let us look up together toward the most familiar friend up in the sky, the moon. Since ancient times, humankind has always been looking up at it. It is the brightest object in the night sky, apart from the sun. It is the main character of the heavens. It keeps us company through every generation, bearing witness to the rise and fall of countless dynasties, to moments of joy and sorrow. Poets compose verses to it, lovers make wishes beneath it, children imagine weather change and the jade rabbit live upon it. That is how it is, quietly hanging up there, always the same face, never changing. We call it the moon. Scientists call it Luna. It is Earth's only natural satellite, and it is also the only extraterrestrial body that humanity has ever personally set foot upon. Speaking of the moon, you may feel it is completely familiar. You see it every night when you look up. What is there to talk about? But when you truly set out to understand it, you will discover that this old friend carries many stories you have never heard before. Its light is reflected sunlight. Although it looks so bright, the moon's surface is in fact very dark. Its albedo is roughly the same as asphalt. No, you did not mishear. Asphalt. It looks so bright purely because it is close to us, and the backdrop is the pitch-black darkness of space. Imagine only Jupiter's moon, Io. All known dwarf planets in the solar system are smaller than it. So, although the moon is classified as a satellite, its scale should never be underestimated. The average distance from Earth to the moon is 380,000 kilometers. What kind of concept is 380,000 kilometers? If you took a high-speed train traveling at 300 kilometers per hour and set off from Earth without stopping day or night, it would take about 53 days to reach the moon. The speed of light is fast enough, is it not, at 300,000 kilometers per second, but even the light reflected from the moon needs a little over 1 second to reach your eyes. This means that the moonlight you see now is the moonlight from just over 1 second ago. That 1 second delay reminds us that even the closest celestial body is, for us humans, a very great distance away. The moon also has a very special property. It always keeps the same face toward Earth. This is because the moon's rotation speed is exactly the same as the speed at which it orbits Earth. This phenomenon is called tidal locking. So from Earth, looking up, you will always and only see the near side of the moon. As for what the far side of the moon looks like for thousands of years, no one knew. For ordinary people like us, if it were not for the photographs sent back by space probes, we would never in this lifetime have a chance to see with our own eyes what the far side of the moon is like. Is that feeling not a little mysterious and touched with just a trace of romance? The most prominent features on the near side of the moon are the large, dark patches. In the 17th century, the Italian astronomer Riccioli gave these regions a very beautiful name, lunar Maria, or moon seas. But although Maria have the word sea in their name, they contain not a single drop of water. They are simply low-lying plains. The moon has a total of 22 Maria, 19 of which are on the near side. They include Mare Frigoris, Mare Serenitatis, Mare Tranquillitatis, Mare Crisium, Mare Imbrium, Mare Nubium, and Oceanus Procellarum. The largest, Oceanus Procellarum, is 1,200 kilometers wide with an area of 5 million square kilometers, nearly half the size of China. The bright regions that form the contrast with the Maria are called the lunar highlands or terrae. The largest mountain range there is the Montes Apenninus, named by Galileo after the mountain range in his homeland. The moon's highest peak, the Montes Leibnitz, reaches 9,000 meters taller than Mount Everest. A world so much smaller than Earth, yet possessing even higher mountains, the craft of nature is truly wondrous. The most common terrain feature on the Moon's surface is the impact crater. When Riccioli assigned names, he had strong personal preferences. He did not like Copernicus, so he placed him inside Oceanus Procellarum. He did not like Galileo, so he put him in an inconspicuous little crater. He admired Tycho, so he gave the most prominent crater to Tycho. And of course, he did not forget to leave a place for himself. The likes and dislikes of an astronomer from centuries ago have been passed down to this day through the simple act of giving names. The Moon's environment is utterly different from Earth's, with no magnetic field for protection and gravity far too weak. The Moon has virtually no atmosphere. Without an atmosphere, there is no medium to carry sound, so the Moon's surface is a world of complete and total silence. If you shouted at the top of your lungs on the Moon, no one would hear your voice because the sound simply cannot travel without an atmosphere. There is also no heat transfer, so the temperature difference between day and night on the Moon's surface is extreme. During the day, the average surface temperature is 107 degrees Celsius. In areas under direct sunlight, temperatures can reach 130 or even 150 degrees. At night, the average temperature is negative 153 degrees Celsius, with lows reaching negative 180. Think about it. During the day, it is hot enough to cook an egg. At night, it is many times colder than Antarctica. And what is more, during a lunar eclipse, the Moon's surface cools with incredible speed. Within just 2 hours, the temperature can drop by 250 degrees. An environment so extreme is impossible for any life on Earth to survive. Faced with this neighbor who is so close and yet so unfamiliar, humans have long been desperate to know how it was born. Regarding the origin of the Moon, scientists have debated for many years, proposing 4 main hypotheses. The first is called the fission hypothesis, proposed by Charles Darwin's son George Darwin. He believed that the early Earth spun so fast that the Moon was flung off, and the Pacific Ocean is the scar that was left behind. But scientists have pointed out that the oceanic crust is only 200 million years old, while the Moon is 4.5 billion years old. They simply do not match. Furthermore, it cannot account for the angular momentum of the Earth-Moon system. If the Moon really had been flung off, the primordial Earth would have had to spin so fast that the planet would have torn itself apart long ago. The second is called the capture hypothesis, which holds that the Moon was a passing celestial body captured by Earth's gravity. But Earth's mass is only 81 times that of the Moon. Look at other examples in the solar system. Jupiter's mass is over 12,000 times that of Ganymede. Saturn's mass is over 4,000 times that of Titan. With such a small mass ratio, Earth simply could not have captured a satellite as large as the Moon. It also fails to explain why the Moon's orbit is nearly a perfect circle, or why the oxygen isotope ratios of Earth and Moon rocks are so similar. The third is called the co-formation hypothesis, which suggests the Moon and Earth were born together from the same molecular cloud, but the Moon's iron core is far smaller than Earth's, and the Moon's average density is only 60% that of Earth. If they truly formed together, why would their compositions differ so greatly? The final winner was the giant impact hypothesis. A body the size of Mars called Theia collided with the primordial Earth, and the ejected material gradually coalesced to form the Moon. In 1984, scientists gathered at a conference in Hawaii to debate, and the giant impact hypothesis emerged victorious as the theory with the fewest flaws. But its victory only means its flaws appear smaller. To confirm this hypothesis, humanity still needs far more evidence. Having spoken of the Moon itself, let us now turn our gaze back to human history. How did humanity, step by step, make its way to the Moon? This story must begin a long, long time ago. In the 1930s, a group of aerospace engineers in Germany began developing liquid fuel rockets. Their goal was very pure: to make rockets fly higher and travel farther. The leader of this group was a man named Wernher von Braun, an engineering prodigy. His lifelong dream was to one day send humans into space. The young von Braun was single-mindedly focused on conquering outer space. He never considered the military value of rockets, but fate has a way of playing tricks. After the Second World War broke out, Nazi Germany took his rocket technology and used it to develop a ballistic missile called the V-2 rocket. This missile had a range of up to 320 kilometers, could carry a warhead weighing 1,130 kilograms, and traveled at 4,000 kilometers per hour. With the technology of the era, there was absolutely no defense that could stop something at that speed. Germany used the V-2 rockets to bomb southern Britain, causing nearly 10,000 casualties among British civilians. On June 20th of 1944, Germany conducted a test flight of the V-2 rocket, which successfully crossed the Kármán line. What is the Kármán line? It is the internationally recognized boundary between the atmosphere and outer space at an altitude of 100 kilometers, and so the V-2 rocket became the first human-made object in history to enter outer space. The irony is that what should have been humanity's first step into the cosmos was built upon a foundation of war and death, and the design of the V-2 rocket would also become the basis for rocket design in the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union that followed. In May of 1945, Nazi Germany surrendered. The United States and the Soviet Union as victors immediately set about grabbing the technological spoils of war that Germany had left behind. Among the most prized were the blueprints and technical personnel of the V-2 rocket program. The United States was quicker-handed. Not only did they find the blueprints, but they also took away the technical director who had designed the V-2 rocket, Wernher von Braun himself. The Soviet side could only scrape up the leftovers. They managed to find only incomplete design drawings and some marginal technical staff, but luckily locked away in a Soviet prison was a giant of science named Sergei Korolev, and it was precisely this giant who would allow the Soviet Union to consistently outperform the United States in the space race that followed. Although the United States and the Soviet Union had been allies during the Second World War, their relationship had never truly been friendly. The United States was wary of Soviet communism and Stalin's rule. The Soviet Union resented America's late entry into the war, which had cost millions of Soviet lives, and also resented American interference in Soviet expansion into Eastern Europe. After Germany's surrender, relations between the two countries deteriorated, but they did not break out into open war. Thus the term Cold War was born. In August of 1945, America dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima, further accelerating the tension. By the mid-1950s, the invention of the hydrogen bomb, the threat of nuclear weapons, and rampant espionage pushed this nuclear arms race to gradually extend from the ground up into space. On October 4th of 1957, the R-7 rocket designed under Korolev's leadership carried the first human-made satellite, Sputnik 1, into space. In this historic moment, the Soviet Union took the lead over America for the first time in the space race. For most Americans, the launch of a Soviet satellite did not inspire excitement. It inspired shock and fear. An American space policy scholar named Dolman once said a very famous line: "Whoever controls low Earth orbit controls space. Whoever controls space controls the ground. Whoever controls the ground can dictate the destiny of humankind. Satellites and space-based weapons deployed in outer orbit can overcome the limitations of geographic distance and ground conditions, enabling global communication and precision strikes in the shortest possible time." So the terrifying thing about Sputnik 1 was not the satellite itself, it was that the same technology could deliver a nuclear warhead to any city. The American news media described this event as a space Pearl Harbor. So now you should understand. This space race was never simply about humanity exploring the universe. It was something the two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, had to do for their own national security. The goal on both sides was very clear. Should nuclear war break out, they had to ensure they could cripple the opponent in the shortest possible time, leaving the other side with no capacity to strike back. The Soviet success left the United States Navy unable to sit still. In December of 1957, the U.S. Navy attempted a rocket launch, and they even televised it, but the rocket exploded just 3 seconds after liftoff, becoming an international laughingstock. Amid their panic, Americans finally remembered von Braun. After the war, he had voluntarily surrendered to the Americans, but precisely because he had willingly defected, the Americans had never trusted him. Fortunately, America's own technical people were not up to the task, which finally gave him an opportunity to bring his talents to bear. On January 31st of 1958, von Braun used his Juno 1 rocket to send America's first satellite Explorer 1 into space. That same year, the United States created the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the famous NASA. But under Korolev's leadership, the Soviet Union's satellite launches grew faster and faster. On January 2nd of 1959, the Soviet Union launched the Luna 1 probe. This was humanity's first successfully launched interplanetary probe and also the first spacecraft to approach the Moon. On September 12th of the same year, the Soviet Union launched Luna 2. 2 days later, it crashed into the Moon, becoming the first spacecraft to successfully achieve a hard landing on the lunar surface. A month after that, the Soviet Union launched the Luna 3 probe, the first spacecraft to capture photographs of the far side of the Moon. Then came April 12th of 1961. The Soviet Union launched the Vostok 1 spacecraft, successfully sending cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin into Earth orbit and completing the world's first crewed spaceflight, fulfilling the dream of sending humans into space. Gagarin also became the first person to enter space. When he returned to Earth, Gagarin became a national hero of the Soviet Union and a global celebrity. His smile, his wave spread across the entire planet. Even among geniuses there are gaps. Faced with Korolev's relentless string of world records, von Braun was deeply shaken, but he could only press on in quiet pursuit. On May 5th of 1961, the United States also completed its first full crewed spaceflight. Alan Shepard became the first American to enter space. Although he did not receive honors as grand as Gagarin's, he also became an American national hero, celebrated with ticker tape parades in Washington, New York, and Los Angeles. Ashamed to be losing to the Soviet Union, President Kennedy, just 20 days after Shepard's flight, boldly announced to the entire world, within the coming decade, the United States would become the first nation to land humans on the Moon. This was the famous Apollo program. Kennedy appointed von Braun as technical director, overseeing the development of the Saturn V launch vehicle. The Saturn V is the largest launch vehicle in human history, standing 110.6 meters tall, with a total thrust of 3,408 tons. That record remains unbroken to this day. In February of 1962, John Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth. In June of 1963, the Soviet Union sent a woman into Earth orbit. She also became the first woman in human history to enter space. Although von Braun kept chasing relentlessly, it still seemed he was living in Korolev's shadow. On March 18th of 1965, Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov left his spacecraft and entered the space environment, conducting 10 minutes of activity, becoming the first person in history to complete a spacewalk. On January 31st of 1966, the Soviet Union launched the Luna 9 probe. humanity achieved its first soft landing on the moon. A crude lunar landing seemed just over the horizon. Just as the whole world believed Korolev would win, he passed away from cancer during surgery, the Soviet Union's. Next, two unpiloted lunar missions all failed, and there was even an accident where a rocket exploded on the launch pad. Soviet leadership, in a panic, demanded that a crewed spacecraft must be sent up before May of 1967. As a result, Soyuz 1 was launched despite known defects. Cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov became the first human to die on a space mission on the American side. They did not immediately seize the opportunity either. In January of 1967, during a ground test of Apollo 1, a fire broke out in the command module. All three astronauts perished within 15 seconds. This accident shook the entire nation and deeply impressed upon humanity just how dangerous and difficult the path to space exploration truly is. But von Braun quickly gathered himself. He drew lessons from this failure and seized what might be the only great opportunity of his life. In November of 1967, the Saturn V was successfully launched into space. This was the first successful test flight of the largest launch vehicle in human history, and it also allowed the United States to surpass the Soviet Union for the first time in the space race. In December of 1968, Apollo 8 achieved the first crewed flight to orbit the moon. The three astronauts also captured the first complete photograph of the entire Earth, a blue marble suspended in the blackness of space. It made all of humanity truly realize for the first time just how fragile and how beautiful our home really is. In March and May of 1969, Apollo 9 and Apollo 10 successively completed the separation, docking, and landing rehearsals of the lunar module. The crew of Apollo 10 piloted the lunar module down to an altitude just 15 kilometers above the moon's surface. Everything was ready. Humanity was just one final step away from landing on the moon. And now, at this moment, let us turn our gaze again to the moon itself. It remains quietly hanging in the sky, indifferent to the strife and rivalry on Earth. It has existed for 4.5 billion years. Its surface is covered in the scars of meteorite impacts, every single one, a mark in the history of the universe. No atmosphere, no wind, no rain, no erosion. A footprint pressed into its dust billions of years ago would remain there preserved right up to the present, over 100 degrees during the day, over negative 100 degrees at night, a world so extreme that nothing can survive, and yet the place humanity most yearns to set foot upon. One day on the moon equals 1 month on Earth. Standing on the moon's surface, the sun rises with an excruciating slowness and sets with that same slow grace. One sunrise to sunset lasts 14 Earth days. The night lasts another 14. If you look up, you will see a sky full of stars, far more and far brighter than anywhere on Earth. And Earth will hang overhead like an enormous blue jewel, 4 times the size of how we see the moon. The moon's gravity is only 1/6 that of Earth's. You could jump very, very high, rising slowly upward, then drifting slowly back down, but you would need to wear a bulky spacesuit to survive. It would be your only protection on the lunar surface. About the moon, about everything, it is humanity has been filled with curiosity and imagination since ancient times, and in July of 1969, humanity was finally ready to turn that curiosity into reality. 3 astronauts would ride the largest rocket in history and fly toward this satellite that has accompanied Earth for 4.5 billion years. Would they succeed? What would they see? And when the first human footprint was pressed into the moon's surface, what would that feel like? Let us leave that for tomorrow night, when I will tell you the rest. And now, relax your body, relax your thoughts. Imagine you are standing on the surface of the moon, and you turn around and look back. A blue Earth is suspended in the pitch black of space. how tiny you are, and yet how miraculous your existence. Breathe slowly, sleep well, sweet dreams.